Hi and welcome to A Mum's Truth. My name's Nadine Whitlinger and I'm your host. I'm stoked to introduce you to my guest today, Melissa Gray. Melissa Gray is a German new medicine informed consultant, advanced EFT practitioner, and reflexologist. She hosts G&M based classes during the monthly safe self-healing call in the Friends of the Truth community. Her work brings together biological understanding, inquiry, tapping, and grounded spiritual principles to help people move beyond fear and develop a more trusting relationship with themselves and their bodies. Hi, Mel.
Hi, Nadine. Thanks for having me.
I would like to add here how I know you.
Okay.
I've actually met Mel. I'm pretty sure that was at the start of 2022. I was still living in Western Australia and we did an EFT session back then. And little did I know what you will mean to me in the future. I have always felt really drawn to you because I feel like you're approaching life in a really grounded way. And I find what I found always really inspiring was especially when we had our G&M sessions and we're talking about, what, how, like, how we approach German new medicine and parenting at the same time. And, I found it really inspiring how you taught me that there is a time when you just have to step back and let your kids figure things out themselves. And yeah, I think that's what stood out for me the most. So I'm really excited that you joined me today. And yeah, I really would like to dive into it right away with you. How about you tell us a little bit about, how did you get to where you're at today, basically?
Oh, wow. Well, that that could take up the whole podcast. So I'll try and give you an
Yes.
abridged version. Yeah, I guess in summary, I was always thinking a bit differently to my friends and peers and stuff growing up. I went to a very grew up kind of like conservative, middle class, boxy kind of ideals, private girls' school, and all that kind of thing. So right from the start, I wouldn't call myself a rebel, but I could see things that were just a normal part of society that I knew in the core of myself just wasn't right. So I was always a bit looking for the alternative. um, so then I guess in my teens and early 20s, I was a bit into, I was born 1970, so my whole childhood was before any kind of social media or that kind of thing. So it was mostly books and documentaries and stuff like that I found before the internet. But I was quite into science meets spirituality kind of stuff. I was a bit um, anti anything religious because of my schooling, which I didn't agree with. The way that Christianity was taught to us was kind of shoved down our throats. But the real kind of change for me happened when, after I finished uni, I studied to be a science teacher, science and PE teacher. So I had good grounding there with a lot of anatomy classes and understanding how the body works that way. And then just not really feeling like getting into the whole teaching side of things and getting serious about life, still feeling a bit restless. I set off overseas on a big overseas journey. And it was in London that I met the father of my three children, who's South African. And we converted an old Land Rover into a motorhome and drove from London to southern India, overland trip. So Greece, Turkey, Iran, Pakistan, India, in the mid 90s, before 9/11, and the world went a bit fear-based and scary. It was all still innocent and young for me. And so on that journey, it was no screens, no alcohol, living outside for 2 years. Um, a few other substances, but not a lot, as you do in your 20s. And yeah, just really got to slowly experience all these different cultures, all these different religions, chatting to people in campsites, getting all the different perspectives, and I just that laid the foundation, I guess, for how I parented. And I had some spiritual awakening kind of experiences, and so when I got back to Sydney, I knew that I was going to do everything different to how my parents birthed, and my mum birthed and raised me, and all that. So that was the birth of internet, and I got to start doing a bit of research and find some online forums. They were like Yahoo groups that we joined up and found other mums and supported each other, and wacky ways of parenting. So I guess that's the base, my starter story.
Yeah.
Should we leap to COVID times?
Maybe, like,
Yeah.
what I found, you told me privately before that you were like homeschooling your kids, and like, I'm also keen to hear a little bit about that, because I think that's really interesting given that you studied to become a teacher.
Yes, funny. Well, it actually, I didn't homeschool Nadine. They went
Oh,
to an
yeah,
alternative, very small hippie school, which I was lucky enough to have nearby me, because there's not many schools
yeah,
like this at all in Sydney. There's no high schools, and there's only two primary schools like this in Sydney. If you go to even to Victoria and I think Queensland, there's a lot more options, but
yeah,
Sydney doesn't have a big
yeah.
pool for, yeah. So um,
How did you get into like tapping and your reflexology and those kind of things?
yes, so my kids were off at this alternative school, and um, so I started reflexology when Um, I've got three children. The first two are 12 months apart, and they'll be 26 and 25 this year. And then my youngest just turned 21. So yeah, I was studying reflexology in between the first two are almost like twins, and my baby. Um, I started studying energetic and spiritual healing. Actually, I was really
Oh, yeah.
quite into spiritual stuff after my trip, and really wanted to make sense of this experience that I called like of oneness. I don't remember whether I called it that at the time,
Yeah.
or I read stuff later and went, oh, that's what that was. But I had this awakening oneness kind of experience in India that lasted a few days and was pretty profound. So I was on a bit of a journey to make sense of that. Um, Started studying reflexology, and because it was in the time of my life when I was raising kids and birthing and all that kind of stuff. That was my specialty. I supported women through pregnancy, childbirth, postpartum, breastfeeding, all that kind of stuff. And I had the experience of, well, I had the support from these groups that I was in, attachment parenting kind of groups, and the experience of extended breastfeeding, baby wearing, co-sleeping. I did the what's it called, elimination communication, where they don't wear nappies, all that kind of stuff. So yes, then reflexology was very hard to start up a business from home. didn't like all the regulatory stuff,
Yeah.
the insurance and the fear about working from home and having to have all the insurance, join all the organisations and all that kind of stuff that just added so many expenses onto your home business. And then at the same time, my youngest, who was very free, wasn't very happy about me being locked away with a client. And even if I had someone looking after her, she'd be coming and knocking on the door. So it just was a natural progression that I started doing more at the parent-run school. So Sky came with me to school from a young age, and she'd just disappear off into the classrooms with the older kids. And as soon as we walked in, someone would pick her up. I don't think she had to walk anywhere for the first few years of her life. She had this huge extended family there. And that became my journey into understanding schooling and deep diving into all that and learning about unlearning. And because I was kind of helping with the marketing and PR. And so I was doing school tours, and I was having people come who had been having bad experiences at their public schools. There was some absolute horror stories that I was hearing, and they were looking for something different. So yeah, deep dove into all that. Didn't actually homeschool because my kids were so happy there, but I understand it deeply and all the different facets because that was kind of my job to explain it all and understand it all and market our school and what we did. We had a lot of the other parents would come between homeschooling and then okay, that's too much for me. Let's go and do a year at our school and come and go and in between travel and all that kind of stuff that you'd understand. Yeah.
Nice.
I can't remember what the original question
Yeah.
was.
And then I guess your EFT came a lot later, right? Because I
Yes.
was one of
So
the
then I
young
had a
people.
period where the kids all chose to go off to their local high school, um, which was fine with me. I felt as though that I'd given them this really healthy grounding,
Yeah.
and that it was up to them. And if at any time they wanted to start homeschooling, they were already kind of self-independent learners, and I could easily support that at any stage. But all three went through high school. They all went through stages of kind of pushing away from me and my weird ways and wanting to be a bit more normal and like their friends in the local community. And I live in a northern suburb of Sydney, so it's pretty mainstream, most of their friends. And yes, so it wasn't till, so then I went through a period where I was wanting to help the father of my kids, we're no longer together, Art, reconnect with his home, Cape Town, South Africa. We went there for a lot, and I was looking for a business idea. So I decided to start importing jewelry and homeware from a small community in Swaziland to connect us with there and have a new business. So when COVID hit, I had a collaborative shop in Lang Cove, was importing jewelry and homewares, mostly from Africa. And that was not an easy business to be in during COVID. And I had business partners who were great, but the business was very important to them, and they wanted to follow regulations a bit more than I did. And there was times that it just became way too stressful for me to go to work because, well, the area of the shop in, which suited fair trade handmade goods because it was kind of, I guess, a left kind of area,
Yeah.
shocked me by
Yeah.
swinging into the fear during COVID, and all this kind of community that I'd felt that I was really part of. There was this big divide during COVID. I didn't want to go into the fear. I wanted to stand up and say no. And so, yeah, that business didn't work out. So stuck at home. We had, I can't remember how many weeks, something like 14 weeks where we weren't even allowed to open the shop and still had to pay rent. It was insane. So stuck at home, getting a bit tired of reacting in fear and trying to wake up all my friends and neighbours, and realizing that didn't go very well. I went, okay, I've got to be part of the change, not part of the fear. So what can I do? Let's get back into my healing work. And so the idea of working online via Zoom suddenly became open. I'd never even considered that before. The reflexology are really a big part of my work that I'm getting back into now, is that I really like the physical connection
Yes.
with people. I read people really well through their feet. So the idea of Zoom didn't click with me very well at first. I thought, how could you possibly do this over a screen? But it proved me wrong. There are things, I believe, that you can gain through that screen, especially when you're doing perception work and you're looking for micro expressions and that kind of stuff, when you don't have all the distractions around you, when you're just connecting through this screen. It's yeah, there's stuff that you
Yeah.
miss actually in real person. So that was lovely. Got into EFT, and it was while I was studying that, I was quite involved in the Friends of the Truth community. I was very early to be there. I was there for their very first podcast episode, and I was in their first group of Rise Above the Herd 1. And so it was through there that I found G&M, and it just made complete sense to me. Yeah, it just answered this. So I'd already been in this realization that I didn't want to be in fear. I didn't want to keep getting drawn into this drama. And a way to look at that is the drama triangle: the persecutor, victim, rescuer. All psyops, all manipulation, all media, all ways that people are unhappy, triggered, everything it can account for being drawn into this drama triangle. And we just keep going around playing the role of victim, persecutor, or rescuer, until you realize that there is a different way. And I think many people are never going to realize this in their lifetime, but if you do, there's a more empowering way, and that's to become an observer and to step out of the drama and notice the patterns, notice how you're getting drawn into that. So that was the final information that I needed. It was a map, a reference explaining health and healing and biology that helped you be in this observer state, not drawn into this triangle. And so that's why it just really clicked for me at the time too, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that for me it was at start of 2023, and it was the Dr. Melissa Sell Q&A we had, the call we had with her. And I come from a science background, So I felt like I was really prepared, sent through all these difficult questions, and she could answer all of them. So what, like, I guess what I want to say is that I really feel that when you say that, for me at the time, it was like everything's falling apart. Everything I ever believed, everything I was ever taught, I went to study this stuff, right?
Mm.
So everything, but for some reason, it didn't take long to convince me. I still feel like I'm sometimes a bit on the fence where where I still feel like I'm trying to connect dots here and there, but for some reason it just feels right within, if that makes sense. And
Yes,
it was
absolutely.
probably one of the most freeing experiences I have ever had.
Yeah,
So when I see people or when I talk to people, and I find it really interesting because what I noticed over the years is that people are able to go in all sorts of rabbit holes, but they will avoid the medical section.
right. Yeah,
Like there's, I don't know if it's fear or what it is, but a lot of people
yes,
are very apprehensive and sometimes for me it's just the subtle little things, right?
yeah,
So maybe it's a good way to actually start. What is German new medicine?
yes, right. Well,
I know.
it's not an easy topic to explain clearly, and I think the main reason for that is because of what I'm talking about. To understand it, to adopt this, you have to be able to step out of that trap.
Yeah.
That it's like an egregore, a collective consciousness
Yeah.
ego trap. And it's not easy to do. There's lifetimes of conditioning and
Yeah.
generational patterns, and from birth we're born into. I describe it like a fish. A fish doesn't know that they're in water. This is like the collective consciousness that we're born into. This lack attachment control, fear-based
Yeah.
drama triangle. So let me explain it. What it gives you. It gives you an understanding. I think at the core of it, it gives you an understanding that symptoms are not mistakes, that nothing in nature is random or malignant or faulty in any way. So the fifth bio. Let's start with the
Mm.
basics. German New Medicine's it's a map. It's a biological understanding, and this started by a man. I don't like to say discovered because they're biological laws of nature, so they're already here. So he coined them, or he mapped them out. And so just like universal laws, they're laws of nature. Um, you can get very rigid in your understanding. They're unfathomable laws of nature. But what they give you, and that symptoms are not mistakes. That's the fifth biological law, the quintessence. It's brings in kind of a spiritual understanding of biology. So that's one thing that you have to be able to have to adopt this information is some kind of understanding that the universe isn't random, that there's meaning and purpose to why we are here. So that helps, but symptoms are not mistakes. There's no villains in your story. There's no magic fix, no rescuer coming, and yeah, no persecutor. So you can't blame genes. You can't, I mean, there are outside the laws. You can be poisoned, you can have accidents, you can be malnourished. And so your body can have symptoms and adapt from those things. But everything else, everything that we have come to know as disease, it's the body adapting. So we know this to be true in so many ways. If we get cut, the body adapts by creating a scab. And if we eat something funky, then we vomit. So just like that, our symptoms are guides. And they explain how we feel, how our perception feels in relation to our environment, our surroundings. So everybody is completely unique. And so the moment that you have some kind of conflict, we call it in German New Medicine, a conflict shock, is a moment when your some of your experience, your perception, how you perceive the world, in that moment, it's a specific moment in time, you don't feel like your biology knows that you don't have what it takes to get you through that stress. So in that moment, you adapt to help you for your benefit. And what we know as symptoms, in the majority of symptoms, they're actually our body trying to repair after we have adapted to help us through shock. So if you are being chased down by a predator, a lion, your body will adapt in whatever way your individual unique person thinks they need to adapt in that time. So it might be your lungs start producing some extra cells that help with oxygen. And so your lungs have more capacity, so you can run faster in that moment, or it might go to your muscles, or you might have a motor conflict and freeze in that moment and hide like a possum. And so this can be observed through all nature, through plants, through animals, through us. But the biggest gift is to understand that your body is always trying to help you. And once you really can grasp that, the opportunity for learning and growth on a personal level is just exponential. Because you've got no villain, you've got no rescuer. So even most of what we call alternative medicine, where most people come to GNM through. But having said that, I have heard recently that a lot of strict medical doctors can jump quite quickly because it is a very, very clear science. It's based in embryology and how we evolved. But yeah, from my perspective, came from the alternative viewpoint, which is still stuck in this, well, they call it in our kind of circles, the Rockefeller view of medicine. So basically, Rockefeller turned from all his making his billions in oil and decided to change the face of health in America first, and it went through the world. So we infiltrated all the universities, changed the way that medicine was taught to a profit-driven method. And then a lot of alternative therapies are still coming out of this model. So it still presumes that the symptom, something has gone wrong, and you need something out of yourself to fix it.
Yeah.
And what you learn is that a lot of symptoms are just the repair phase. So just bringing to conscious awareness that nothing is wrong, that your body's adapting with meaning and purpose is all that's needed to help that program repair. Because when you get drawn back into the drama, you're back into that state of, you can look at it from victim, rescuer, persecutor. And I'm developing a model at the moment where we look at it from three beliefs of ego: lack, attachment, control. So it's a similar kind of loop. Like there's something wrong with me, something I'm missing that I need for my survival. If I don't have this thing, then I need to attach to some outcome. When I have this, I'll be better. And if that doesn't work, then I go into control, a fear-based program. Then this is the yeah, I get all controlling. And then when that doesn't work, I loop back and you get stuck in these loops. So yes, these methods help you step outside that.
What I found really helpful in the beginning when I first heard about it was because I was so into this allopathic medical world
Yeah,
that Dr. Harmer actually had all the scientific evidence. Like there is actual evidence. It's not a theory because he could repeatedly show in I don't know how many thousand
yes,
patients that it was the same pattern over and over.
yes. He
Whereas
used the
in
CT scans
yes,
and
whereas in
mapped out the
allopathic
brain.
medicine, a lot of it is just theory based. So
It's
I feel
based
like
on
that,
assumptions
yeah. So I
when
feel
you
like a
look
lot
into
of
it.
that was and it gave me during that time when I first learned about it more of I don't know, like maybe a certainty or I don't know what it was, but it was like something it was a fact that I could not pretend wasn't actually there.
Yeah,
And I also liked how he explained it. So I started reading one of his original books. He was
yes.
German, so
I love that you can do
I
that.
started reading it on and off because I find it a really difficult read and I have to take it in slow doses. But you know how he speaks about how he compares us almost to like a computer. Like
Yes,
you're going through this shock
right.
and it sends the
Yes,
information from your brain to the body part, to the
yes,
organ. It's actually,
yes.
and it makes sense. I mean, you know, there is so many things that AI can do these days, but they are not able to recreate a human body.
No, I know we still have so much more. So many people are afraid of the
Yeah,
AI, but we're still the most powerful
100%.
processing. Yeah, yeah. That can't. I'm not great with remembering numbers, but there's yes, just exponentially more powerful in the way that we process information, and most of it is subconscious. And that's interesting. I didn't know, well, I hadn't heard it in that language, but I'm very interested in looking at things this way, that the universe is created by code at the moment. And so a
Mm.
lot of doing this subconscious work, you approach it in that kind of language, you know, the matrix and all those sort of concepts
Yeah.
do as well. Yeah.
And I also think that's something worth mentioning here because I'm not trying to convince people. You know, that's not what I'm trying to do, but sometimes I wish people would be a little bit more open-minded and not like shut the door right away. Because I mean, he did have the best intentions. He had all
Mm.
this evidence,
Mm-hmm.
did present it to universities and other doctors. And it's
Mm.
actually the pharma industry, I believe, that shut him down.
Mm.
And that's what I sometimes can't really understand, how people are able to talk about the craziest things in the world, and possibilities, and we're all in a simulation. And I hear like all these crazy things. I'm like, this is something that's right into our face, and it does make so much sense.
Mm,
Because like just I have to always bring it back to myself. Just that change from being fearful of catching a cold or things
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Like, and then you can go into all the specifics, but I feel like even just alone the mindset that I am
yeah.
not afraid of catching something.
It's
I'm barely
incredibly
unwell.
empowering. And yes, it's astounding to me. And it's very hard. I find it hard to remember what it was like to be back
Yeah.
there, and that's hard to have empathy and understanding. But just things like the mainstream system is so the criticism that this is spiritual and woo woo and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But when you really pull apart the mainstream system, it is all based on faith. And it
Mm.
is very like a cult. If you trust the white coats, you
Yeah.
trust the information that they've regurgitated from their universities that's delivered by known corrupt pharmaceutical
Yeah.
companies, and they wholeheartedly ask you to believe in an invisible thing called a virus, for example, that science still really has never been able to prove to exist. So when people are afraid of catching a cold, it's like they're afraid of something evil, that, and so
Yeah.
it's like a religious message that's been planted in their head that's so disempowering, that keeps them connected to the white coat, to the
Yeah.
system that is the solution is known poisons. And it's just
Yeah.
such complete insanity. It is so hard to hold in your heart sometimes, seeing
It so is.
people
I
that
just
you
had a
love
conversation.
caught. It's like
Yeah.
everybody, for me, it feels like everybody I know and love is in a cult. And I'm sure they think the same thing about me. But yeah,
Yeah.
I struggle with it too, hun.
I think it's wild in general, that people that are healthy and try, I don't know, that we're the crazy people anyway.
Yes,
It sometimes feels that
yes.
way, but I had a really good conversation on the weekend about this, and that's something we chatted about before privately as well, was that I was almost at a point where I got sometimes really upset with people. I'm like,
Mm,
can't you
mm.
just see it?
Yeah.
And then I tell people, I'm like, well, I don't believe this actually anymore. So I've
Yes,
come away from that again as well, because I
yes,
mean,
we
at the end
talked
of the
about
day,
that.
it's everyone else's journey, and everyone has to figure it out for themselves. But what I did notice is I am just not someone that can pretend. So I'm also not just simply agreeing to things. But I had a conversation on the weekend, and I did say, I'm like, look, I've got my own beliefs if it comes to viruses, but I'm not saying the symptoms aren't real,
Yes,
because they're very
great.
real, and
That's
I
a
feel like, and I understand
that's
that.
a great seed
So I
planting, we
feel like
call it.
I start seeing it from a different point of view. What I find really interesting is maybe we can get a little bit into a conflict. How about
Yes,
what do you think about the stink conflict? Because I feel like ever since I found out about that one, I can
yeah,
see people sneezing around me, or I sneeze if, you know, I get annoyed. Even the dog
yes,
sneezes at me.
yes, yes. So yes, you're getting annoyed when people sneeze around you. So that's all frustration
Mm.
is all forms of anger, all frustration is an attachment to an outcome. So when you feel yourself frustrated, you can ask yourself, what outcome am I attached to here? Um, Yeah. So what's your question?
So maybe we can get into the sting conflict, for example. Like if,
Yes.
what is the
Yes.
sting
Well,
conflict?
so it's a really interesting way to look at things because you start with a symptom. So say you've got a rash that like eczema. I want to understand eczema. Um, Eczema's on the epidermis, the outer a layer of skin. What's the purpose of skin? Touch your skin. You can feel it. You've got touch sensors there. So the purpose of your skin is touch, connection. Um, what what would be the purpose of your skin adapting? If there is missing touch or unwanted touch, your skin ulcerates. So here we are when you have a conflict. Now, conflict isn't just an emotional reaction. As I said, this is a moment in time where you don't feel like you've got the tools to help you through. Now, this is because you are stuck somehow in this, and this triangle can be correlated also to the lower three chakras, root, sacral, solar plexus. So your first reaction is because you are believing one of these three egoic beliefs. You are not understanding your true nature. So you experience the conflict as a separation conflict, which is either unwanted touch or missing touch. So a child is sent to daycare. On their first day, they are very, very young. They don't realise that their mum's really going to disappear for this long, and so they miss their touch. And so the skin will start ulcerating, and so it has this purpose of it numbs. You can't feel physically the space that's missing, or if it's unwanted touch, it has the same purpose. You don't feel where the touch is unwanted anymore. And this is an interesting program. It also can come with some short-term memory loss. So you actually start not remembering the person that's missing. That's painful. And then when you get some resolution, you get home, you're back in touch with your mum, the skin that ulcerated needs to repair. And that's when you start seeing the rash. So the rash is the repair phase. The rash is telling you you've got what you want, but we've been programmed to think, oh no, something's gone wrong. I ate something wrong. I have a bad gene that I got passed down, got the eczema gene I got passed down from my mum. I came in contact with a toxin or something bad, all these things outside of ourselves, and we miss when we think that way resolving this loss conflict, this separation conflict. So the immediate solution for a small child with eczema is not to separate. They don't have yet enough resources to be able to cope with that
Yeah.
separation, or find someone else that they can connect with, or send them with something that helps them connect with you. Find a solution to the separation, not the rash, by looking for cream. So if you put cortisone cream, the other thing to be aware of is that all the original adaptations that happen in the conflict phase, when your cells are actively adapting to help you through, that conflict active phase is a sympathetic nervous system phase. And then the healing happens in rest and digest, parasympathetic. The cells are repairing. So creams like cortisone work in the short term because they put you back into a sympathetic nervous system state, and the cells go back to ulcerating or pause for a while. It's not as anyone that knows with something like eczema, it's not a long-term solution. And often children grow out of it because that loss of mum's no longer relevant for you anymore. I'm a big boy now. I don't need my mum. I can go off to school and be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting. Because you see so many kids having eczema these days, and
Yeah.
more kids.
And what's happening more and more is it's very sad. Both parents have to work,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm gentle with my solutions.
Oh, 100%.
The body is definitely saying that they don't want to separate from you,
Yeah.
but if it's absolutely necessary, yeah, find ways. And there's some beautiful things you can do to help children, like speaking to them when they're asleep, speaking to their subconscious. You do it in a way where before this is all happening in the subconscious, in the shadows, the shadow part. Your subconscious might and your instincts would know that you don't really want to leave your job,
Yeah.
but your conscious mind, I have to make money, I have to do this. But when you can bring things to conscious awareness, so you can say, I don't want to leave you either. I understand this is hard for you, it's hard for me too. I'm looking for a solution. That is a very it's a smooth way to start healing for both of you. And children, if with G&M, when you're working with children, you work with the mother usually.
Yeah.
Because until children are 7, they're very connected with their mother. So most symptoms children are going through is to do with the family dynamic in some way.
Yeah. So interesting. I think for me, it all did not it was all fine understanding the concepts, and I could see like little bits and bobs here. We're generally, I would say, pretty well people. Like nothing, we're not constantly recovering from any cold symptoms or things like that. So I feel like we did not have anything terrible that we had to deal with at the time, or terrible. I mean, again, an adaptation. But what happened, and I mean, that is when I broke my ankle, and I had 2 plates and 11 pins inserted in my bones during surgery, and I really did not want to have the surgery. I really did not want to have this metal in there. And before they even put it in, I was really concerned in expressing at the hospital that I wanted to be taken out again, just because I didn't want to have it in there. And they told me that, we'll have to see how this all goes. They were kind of like sweeping it under the rug, like one step at a time. So I tried going with that. I had the surgery, and it was about 3 months after I had issues on and off. I don't know if you remember, I had a really bad rash along the sutures on both sides.
Yes.
And which was probably linked to me not liking the way it looked. They happened to cut through a tattoo I have on my ankle, and when they put it back together, it was
Yeah.
misaligned. Like it looked
Yeah.
terrible, right? There was a lot of things going on, and I just did not
Yes.
like the way it looked. And
Yes.
then I remember I went to my last follow-up appointment, and I asked when they would be able to take the metal out, and they said to me that they will not take it out unless I will have any issues in the future. And I went home, and it was less than 24 hours later that I had to go back to the emergency department because I started having signs of an infection in there,
So
which,
interesting.
is incredible,
Yeah.
right? So they
Yeah.
kept me in the hospital and they were looking at it, and it took them 2 days to decide because it was a long, there was a public holiday and it was a long weekend. And I think at the time we had a cyclone going through in North Queensland, and they then told me that they will have to take the whole metal out. They did all their, scans to make sure that the bone had healed really well.
You got it out.
And I got it out, and
Isn't
then
that amazing? Your body went, I want this out, and started
and
pushing it
during
out.
that time when I first presented at the hospital, they put me on IV antibiotics. And I
Yes.
remember really not being okay with it.
Yeah.
And it kept dragging out, and I was
Yeah.
already at 4 weeks into taking antibiotics. And I remember calling you, and we set an appointment and had a chat about it. And I made the conscious decision, against all advice given to me at the hospital, to stop the antibiotics right then and there. I did not finish any, I think at this point in time, I came off IV antibiotics and I was on oral antibiotics, and I still had about 3 or 4 weeks ahead of me.
Mm.
And I mean, I assume most people who will listen to this have some sort of interest in, health, and would probably agree that it is not good for your body if you take antibiotics for such a long time. And I was just at the point where I could not navigate the allopathic way anymore with my new beliefs. And so I decided after our session, and that really was a decision I made just by myself, to drop the antibiotics then and there. And they were really concerned about me, telling me, there's people getting their legs amputated because it's a bone infection that you're dealing with, and it's
Fear, fear,
terrible.
fear.
Knowing Germany medicine was that those bacteria that were in there were
Yeah.
actually there and part of my healing phase,
Yes.
and that I was just suppressing it and basically dragging it out.
Yes. And this is the empowerment that having this knowledge gives you. It doesn't mean that you don't follow the advice of medical professionals, but you have a choice. Your body is more in your hands when you don't have the fear. So a lot of medicine is based on the fear of microbes. Microbes are always blamed as the cause of the infection. And yeah, so a cut, as we said before, accidents are outside the biological laws, but I find over and over again that something has gone on within the biological laws from the start. So the ankle may have been weakened due to self-devaluation conflicts, which have this same reaction as the skin with cell loss during conflict active phase. I'm not keeping pace, some kind of conflict like that with the ankle,
Yeah.
weakens it and makes you more susceptible to injury. And then there's a problem if you can go so far into this knowledge that you then are scared of, and I sit a bit in this place. I think that going into hospital would be quite
Yeah.
conflictual for me, but it's also a lesson, a big lesson,
Yeah.
likely for me to happen in, and that's a lot of the talk that we did.
Yes.
So Nadine's choice to stop the antibiotics came from her. I would never tell someone to do something like that. I would
Yes.
just give them
Yes.
the information. Microbes are there, so the incision goes into the corium skin, and we talked about the outer layer of the skin is about separation. The deeper layer, the corium skin, is about protection. So the conflict that it responds to is attack.
Mm.
And so it's attacked, soiled, disfigured. So when you looked down there and saw
I did not
yeah,
like it.
yes, you didn't like it, or you felt disfigured because the tattoo didn't match anymore. You didn't want all that metal in you that felt disfigured. So your body is reacting to
Which
that
is
conflict.
amazing. You know,
Yeah.
like if you think about it, it's amazing. And I feel like now in hindsight, looking back at it, it was all exactly meant to be that way. Like for
Yeah.
me, it all just started making sense because we figured out, or I figured out that every time I had to present at the hospital, which was a lot of times because I had constantly some issues, was that every time I went there, I went on a track, which is
Hmm.
like a trigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Not helped by all the fear that they give
no,
you.
no. And like at the same time, I was like, well, you know, so I felt like I just could not navigate it anymore. So for me, the only way forward was to know, like, I got to draw a line here.
Mm.
And what a wild time, Melissa. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I was even worried, you
Oh,
know, what do I tell them on the phone? But I,
yeah.
I found my ways to deal with it.
Yes. And
And
I admire you. I always admire Nadine's German strength and conviction and
and I
power
stopped the
and all that.
medication and I was
Yes.
fine. There was no issues. And guess
Yes.
what?
Isn't
I
that
do have both
amazing?
legs, you know, like there was no
Yeah.
issue at all. Never
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah. Yeah. It healed itself. So, with the corium skin, you're because you're under attack, your body is literally trying to build an thicker skin for you to protect you. It's helping you. And the microbes come to break down those extra cells when they're not needed. And this can be messy. They create inflammation and pus and pain. It's um, no easy
Mm.
easy trip going through an intense healing phase. It can be very painful, and the longer that you've been conflict active, the more cells. So in this case, extra cells that are grown need to be broken down. So the longer you've been active with the conflict, it's on your mind, you're looking for a solution, you're waking up at night because you're in your sympathetic nervous system state. Your body wants you to find a resolution quickly. And so as soon as you do, you have a shift of perspective or you change your behavior, come to a solution somehow, then your body can go into repair. And that's when the microbes need to come and break down this extra tissue. And big scary things might be involved, like TB
Yeah.
what do they call it? Not
Oh,
strat.
yeah,
Staph.
staphylococcus.
Staph.
Yeah.
Strat's my
Yeah.
Andy's guitar. Not
And
a
you know, the wildest thing to me till today is, and I feel like a lot of my friends that I still have left that are still in that science field. Like
yeah.
I worked in microbiology.
Yeah.
So I was the one, I was like, I would have been the one, you know, 10 years ago, if you would have said to me, oh, I'm not going to take the whole package of antibiotics, I would have been like, oh my God, you know, do not do that. Absolutely not. So dangerous, and would have
Yes.
totally
So
fallen
what's
for it.
dangerous in your mind? Do you remember
Yeah.
that the microbes will take over
Yeah.
and get into your bone
And
and yeah.
it's all really just on what I've been taught throughout life, what the doctors have told you, even, you know, like back as a child when you ever went on a course of antibiotics, and I think most of us have been at some point in life,
Yeah.
that they tell you
It's so
don't.
anti-nature, isn't it?
It's,
Like,
yeah.
when you look in a forest and there's destruction, there's a fire goes through or something, that it always regenerates. There's evidence of this nature's ability to reorganize and regenerate everywhere. It's just
And I think what also helped, and what I find really good, or what helped me also, like in terms of parenting, is that you come back stronger, because, you know, nature wants you to be stronger.
yeah.
So it
Yeah, and what a
happens.
beautiful gift to give
Yeah.
your kids to grow up knowing that they can't catch something from one of their friends and they can't
Mm.
give something to one of their friends either. Not to belittle sickness, as we talked about,
Yeah.
that definitely happens. You just take all the fear out of it. And then when they do get a cold, to think back to what's been happening in their life and
Yeah.
understand why their body's doing this. And it's so much easier to go through the pain when you know that your body's repairing, that it's
That's
been
true.
helping you. Yeah. And imagine like little children knowing that.
Mm.
Yeah.
So before we wrap it up, that's
Mm.
actually something I wanted you to get into as well. So,
Mm.
you know, my boys are teenager and child, so it's two
Yes.
very different ages and all phases to be in. And I feel like I've got an easier time talking with my younger son about it, also because he grows a little bit more up that way. Whereas for my
Yes.
teenage son, it just happened that, you know, 6 years ago, our life has just turned upside down. What's a good way of navigating that? Because I feel like you know, how you mentioned at the beginning that your kids felt sometimes like, you know, they just want to be with normal people. And I do
Oh,
actually get this told a lot,
yes.
you know, like, can
My
you just
my
be?
son my son still rolls his eyes at my
Yeah,
crazy ways. Um, yes, there's a big lesson, I think, especially when children are small, under 7, you have to step in and protect them and
yeah,
set an example and tell them your beliefs and all that kind of stuff. But there's a point where I think it also helps to just let them go off on their own path and find things for themselves. And you never know what that might be. So, like, I might want to study medicine, which
yeah.
most of the world would think would be fantastic. And if you are in resistance to that, then that's going to be a big block in your relationship. And it might just be that they need that mainstream foundation to
Yeah.
then draw back on your energy, your wisdom, your everything that you've provided, and then combine the two and do something
Mm.
incredible. So I guess just keep being your authentic self on your
Yeah.
path, notice things, point things out, have a laugh, be able to have a laugh together about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say healing phase, and Kim would say something like, "Oh, you caught a cold," and I go, "Well, you're going to catch it more easily if you believe that," or
Yeah.
we'd have a bit of turn it into a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I feel like I just started, and that's something I feel like that's also just part of my process, and probably every mom that gets exposed to some sort of new knowledge that they acquire on the way, is that it's just like the whole COVID thing, right? Like you always try to wake up people, but then, and I feel like we've all gone through the same phases. At some point, we just like, okay, it's at the end of the day, it's you got to make the choices that are right for you, and I'll just do
Yeah,
what I think is right for me. And I feel like I just noticed that I try to change the language,
yeah.
like I'm not saying,
And
oh,
because it is in nature and everything that the situations will appear.
yeah,
So you might notice, so a lot of healing phases will start after the stress. So you've been through the
mm,
adaptation, and so after when he goes on the holiday or something like that, and you will notice, oh, well, that
mm,
you're healing. You can just point out, well, I've noticed that you're healing now because you've been through that. Isn't that interesting? So yeah, just that gentle correcting. He might go, I'm sick, I need to do this,
yeah,
I need to correct something. You can just go,
yeah,
well, you're healing because you've been through this.
yeah.
You
Or
can
just
take it
like
or leave it.
yeah, or just like the if we talk about other kids being like unwell at the gym, for example. Like I probably would have, and I'm not perfect. It might still slip out here and there, but I would have probably in the past rather said, "Oh, remember, we don't catch something." But that's
Yes,
not.
yes,
I can't generalize it like this for everyone else around me. So I said,
yes,
"Look, I would not be afraid of catching something." But I
yes,
think
yes.
so. We talk about a lot about mindset, and
Yeah, and
I
that's a
think we're
great one
now
in
just at the state.
questions,
Yeah,
Oh, so are you afraid that you might catch them? Or
yeah,
or do you believe that you caught this from that guy?
yeah,
And so then when he explains his position, he might hear that and think, oh, that sounds
yeah,
disempowering, or yeah,
yeah.
mum's perspective so much more
Yeah.
empowering. I
I,
prefer
I I
that.
feel like we're now at the point where I just have to really step back.
Yeah.
I feel this really strongly because I feel like he is, for example, snotty a lot. And I think it often actually happens after we have some sort of argument. And I
Very
actually
likely.
I'm just honest about this too, because like
Yes.
I'm still learning to, you know,
Yes.
like how do you it's and we all try to be the best parent we can be,
Yeah.
but we just make some mistakes along the way also. So I feel like that's where I'm now at the point. I'm just like I have to just step back and let him figure it out himself.
Yeah. And he'll come to you.
I think so too. And I hope I'm leaving a good footprint.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
had quite a few years with my daughter. She was a bit in a lot of resistance to me. And it was really interesting. It wasn't till so I moved out of the home with my three kids. I moved in with my partner. They were all young adults. Um, and it wasn't until I left that Sky chose to stop her victim story and reconnect
Mm.
with me while I was there in it with her. I think she always found a way, and maybe it was on these tracks and triggers, reminders of ways that she
Yeah.
could jump back into a victim story. Yeah, and it was soon after I moved in, she came around and went, "Wow, you seem different." And she said, "Yeah, I just decided to let it all go."
That is so cool. And I feel like I relate to this because we've have got the same because our daughter stayed up north with her partner. And it's the same thing, And I see, I obviously miss her a lot because we've got quite a bit of distance in between, but I think it's really good for her.
Yeah,
And she's got a lot of, I'm very proud, let's just say it like that. Like I think she's going definitely into the right direction.
yes. Proud mum.
Yes.
Nice feeling.
Well, that was so awesome, Mel. I think there's a lot for people to digest on.
Yeah,
if people would like to reach out to you, how can they reach out to you, or how can they find out more? Where would be a good resource, to go
I
if
have a
they want to learn?
website, which is MG, my initials, Melissa Gray, Freedom Coach, comes out of my EFT. I feel like it's a bit outdated now, Freedom Coach, but that's what it is still. Comes out of my emotional freedom technique days and the COVID fear. So mgfreedomcoach.com.au and on Instagram, mgfreedomcoach.
Awesome. I'll put that into the show notes.
Mhm.
And thank you so much for joining me for this chat.
Thank you for having
And
me,
yeah,
Nadine.
have a wonderful day.
Thank you.